Hello and welcome back to the When You're podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're imagining life as an animal. So you guys know that meme where you kind of see a picture of like an animal doing something so simplistic, something so serene and cute and cuddly. Like it's just like you'll see a picture of like a kitten floating in like a pool on like a pool floaty, or like one of those inflatable beds that you can lay on the pool, and then like they'll have like a glass of milk next to it, and then somebody will take a picture of it and then post it, and they'll be like, oh, to be a kitten on an inflatable bed on a pool and on a sunny day, something like that, right? And I kind of was just focusing on that. I was like, man, that would be such a cute little thing to have happen. Like imagine the whole generation of cats, the whole generation of, tiny little animals that have survived over years, centuries really, and they have transformed into these domestic animals. And one day you're born and you're just like a little meowing kitten, and then one day your human companion, your quote unquote friend, as far as I'm concerned, they don't see it as a master, I guess, but either way, they look at you, you pick them up, you put them there, they shove this box in your face, right? And then they kind of just like magically point it at you, and then like it flashes maybe, and then after all that, they post a picture about you. They take care of you. They feed you. They do the whole thing, right? And I kind of was just focusing on that for some reason. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to kind of talk about, like, what would it be like, to look at things from their perspective. These are things that I've kind of always thought about, but they're nothing I've really ever talked about out loud. So I thought, why not do it for the podcast? So I think the ones that I focus on the most, or the ones that a lot of people kind of think about or that they want to experience, is being a bird. I think birds are one of those creatures that we wish we could become, so that we could feel what it's like to be in the sky, to flap our wings and fly, to be out there and to feel the cool breeze hit your face as you're about to descend and make a kill or catch a fish from the ocean. You know what I mean? Just to be one of those, just to be a bird, chirp every now and then and flock with your crew, soar to the sky, make a V formation and have fun, right? Like, that's kind of something. There's something to that. There's something fun about it. And I don't want to make it just a generalization of all birds. Some birds are very unique. Some birds are very versatile. They're triple threats, Like, let's take ducks, for example. Ducks are an elite bird because they swim, they walk on land, they fly, they do it all, Some birds, they can't, I'd like to believe that birds on some level could swim, but they really can't, Ducks, they do it all, They dive underwater, right? They can do all that. So they have multiple ways of living, you know what I'm saying? It's just that, like, oh, they can go on the water and they can float and have their family, and then they can fly up into the trees, or not that I've really seen ducks up in trees, but they could if they wanted to. And then they can also waddle on land and talk to people and, like, you know what I mean? And do whatever it is that they do, They also have like a nice little quack to them, you know what I mean? They're very, what's it called? I don't want to say domestic bird. It's not a lot of people have pet ducks, but, I mean, you could have a pet duck. But I think I'm more so thinking, like, they're a very good, family-friendly, brandable. They're a brandable bird, that a lot of people enjoy, that they really like. Let's see. But outside of that, there's your basic bird. Like, I wouldn't mind being a pigeon either. Being a pigeon and, like, maybe hanging around New York City or wherever they are, right? Like Central Park or whatnot. Hanging out in some, I don't know, just random place. I feel like pigeons get a bad rap because you just there's too many of them and you don't pay them that much attention, right? But pigeons really like just being a bird at all, you know? Even a simple pigeon as that is just like you know, it's not that bad. It's not that bad of a life. You know what I mean? It's just like sometimes you just kind of have to wake up and look at them and just realize that like you can fly away at any point in time. You know what I mean? And then that's when you realize, wow, they're just taking off. They're flying away. They're conscious, self-aware. They're really cool birds. You know, they're big peckers. They peck, peck, peck. You know, you throw something on the ground and then they peck, peck, peck. And then there's also the hummingbirds and the woodpeckers. Hummingbirds, they don't really peck. They just kind of like, they have like that very long nose, or I guess the needle. And then they, you know, they eat that way. And they're flapping their wings. They're just the simple like it. You know, the very simple fluttering, the quick one, the quick flutters, you know? And I mean, I think those are very peaceful moments. I remember I never really thought about like listening to a hummingbird's wings until I saw the movie Ray with Jamie Foxx, who plays Ray Charles, and then he's like listening outside, and then he's just like, listen, shut up and listen. He's telling his girlfriend or whoever, he's like, shut up and listen outside. And then she kind of listening, and then she could hear the fluttering of a hummingbird. But they're sitting inside of a restaurant, so I was just kind of like, there's somebody talking, like there's music playing, there's people working, like there's no way she would be able to hear it, but there she is. She's just like closes her eyes and listens, and then they hear it just you know, but then the woodpeckers, they go crazy. They go, you know what I mean? They go crazy on that, and then they have to have a very, I guess, a very sturdy head. I don't know. They go crazy on that. But anyways, moving on. I guess another specialty bird would be like a vulture. Right? Like, I mean, you have your vultures, you have your hawks, you have your eagles. I would vote for the vulture because the vulture, I mean, they're menacing creatures. They're very deadly. But what's crazy about them is that they'll live just about anywhere, I think. You know, I mean, if vultures are kind of represented as like desert seekers, right? They live in the desert, they fly over top, and then they catch their prey, which is true. You know, there's surely there are other, like hawks probably live in the desert, you know what I mean? They catch snakes, they'll get mice and stuff. But for me, whenever I think about like a desert bird, I always think about vulture or whatever. So I guess it's just propaganda. But anyways, the vulture there hovering. And I just think that the name vulture itself is a pretty deadly name. It's like, the vulture's coming, you know what I mean? I don't know. I like that name. So anyways, being that kind of a bird, being like a fear-striking bird in the hearts of your enemies, you know what I mean? The snakes fear the vulture. The rabbits fear the vulture, you know what I mean? Mice fear the vulture, you know? Even other birds fear the vulture. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a powerful bird. You kind of want to hold that and grasp it. You know what I mean? You want to be the top bird, even though I guess the biggest birds or maybe the best birds might be like a falcon. You know, maybe a hawk per se, possibly like a big emu, or like one of those big, you know, crazy birds. I don't know their names, but you get what I'm saying. And then kind of like a wild card bird, like one that, like a parrot. Imagine life as a parrot, being able to talk. I mean, if I was put into the mind of a parrot and I could speak, I would never shut up. I would never shut up, and I would be a millionaire because I would just figure out a way to speak English to everybody. Of course, they always make it seem like guac, give me the, they always make it seem like they can't speak it. They trick you. They trick us all into being like guac. They go like squawk. Give me the money. Give me the money. They say some dumb one phrase and they keep on repeating it, and they try to make us believe that, oh, I know you can talk. It's just like you have to figure out English. You know what I mean? That would be me if I was in those shoes. So far, life as a duck would be a lot of fun because I could swim, I could fly, I could walk on land. I'm a very people-pleasing kind of person, People would love me. Pigeons, you'd just be a regular fly on the wall. Nobody would really care about you. Nobody would mess with you. You get to go do whatever you want. If you're a vulture, right? You get to be the top bird. You get to be the scariest bird in all the land. And then with a parrot, you could like speak. You know what I mean? You're very colorful kind of a bird. So I feel like that's a good range of them. But outside of birds, there's also, is this really an animal? It's their own thing, but you get what I'm, like a bug. Like I thought about like, what if I was a bug and I could just, everything just becomes so much larger than life. You know what I mean? Like if you're a spider, I don't know. I feel like if I were a spider, there would be so many other things I would do other than to just web stuff up, but maybe it's inherent to their nature, you know what I mean? It's a part of what they do and who they are. I would swing around and be crazy like Spider-Man, you know what I mean? Just be crazy going all over the place, which some of them do, but I wouldn't really be interested in the dark, scary, the dark places. I'd be out in the open, you know what I mean? But by then, maybe people will squash me or kill me. So it's possibly best to, stay low and into the shadows. But I'd be sneaking into all kinds of places. Like I'd still go to the movies as a spider, you know what I mean? Yeah, people will dump out all their snacks and stuff. It's perfect. It's perfect food. I would also... You know what? It would be cool to catch a fly in my spider trap. That must be a good feeling. A very good feeling. Imagine you spend all this time on crafting this web and you just put it in the right spot. A fly lands, sticks onto it. And then you're like, oh my goodness. Imagine that feeling. You go back to your web and you're like, oh, look at what I got here. And then you wrap it up, you know what I mean? You put your secret sauce on that. You put your secret sauce on that fly, right? You wrap it all up like a burrito, you know what I'm saying? Silky, smooth burrito, right? And then you crush it down into a delectable little piece that you can digest, you know what I mean? Oh, that's probably a great feeling. I don't know why I find that so funny, but yeah, anyways, it'd be cool to be a spider. Anyways, what about an ant? Ants are, they're strong. You ever see one of those leafcutter ants? I see those when I go to the zoos or any kind of like, they usually have them at like animal exhibits, and they'll just show you them like going in a line, cutting a piece of leaf and then walking out or going back or doing whatever. Like those guys are very efficient, but they're also very strong. They're capable of 100 times their size. So, who wouldn't want that kind of strength? Am I right? That's just cool. Even though I was kind of mocking them earlier, it'd be nice to be a fly. I probably wouldn't be too happy about my appearance, but, I'll die by the end of the day, so I won't have that much time. And then I'll have, like, about 1 million eyes. It'd be kind of funny just to mess with somebody, you know what I mean? Just to float in front of their face and then have them smack themselves. Just to, like, float above them and whatnot, you know what I mean? Just to kind of be like, oh, this is fun. And they try to swat me, but then the wind kind of pushes me away, or I'm too fast for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that'd be kind of fun. Let me think of another insect that I could try to become. I don't know. What about a scorpion? Scorpions Scorpions are pretty chill for the most part. I mean, they do sting you, but that's, outside of that, what do they really contribute? I mean, they look cool. They look very, very cool. I don't know. I think scorpions would be awesome. I would like to be a scorpion, sting stuff, kill them, but I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't be getting a whole lot out of that, you know what I mean? As an insect, you can kill all kinds of things. It's not. Maybe a grasshopper. Grasshopper would be cool. Praying mantis, that would be cool. That could be fun. What about I mean, crickets are kind of annoying, but I imagine if you're in the perspective, if you're a cricket, you're probably like happy to sing songs with your fellow crickets. You know what I mean? I bet that'd be cool. Like you have a little cricket choir. That'd be nice. So, anyways, that would be my choices. But then, okay, let's get back to the matter at hand. No more insects. Animals. What would it, imagining life as an animal? What about like the bigger animals, like a horse? It must be so beautiful to be a horse. Just to imagine galloping. You know what I mean? You ever gallop? You ever galloped before? That must be so fun. And the joy you must feel. Imagine the joy a good horse feels after a high a Kentucky Derby race. Like that's. I wonder if they do a study where horses have a runner's high. Just like they enjoy the pace of it all. You know what I mean? But who am I to say? But I bet that must be a good feeling. It must be pretty fun. Although I have no idea if the horse would really care about it. They're just kind of like there for fun. Or they're forced to be there, but I'd like to believe that they would be excited, or that they have like a, ooh boy, I won, or like I beat all of the other horses today. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like a social hierarchy. But anyways, it must be cool to be a horse. What's bigger than a horse? A moose. A big moose. Those things are gigantic. I mean, they just like, they walk through water. They don't even swim. They just walk through it because their legs are that long. They're that big. Huge moose. I'd like to be a moose. I can't tell you specifically what they eat. I probably grass. I'm not entirely 100% sure. But I would say this, okay? Being that big of a moose, it's got to be so freeing to be that big and like maybe dumb. Like being that big dumb moose and just kind of like, again, just walking through the woods, not having a care in the world. And then you see this tiny little human come across you and you're just like, I don't really care about you. Get out of my way. Da-da-da. Not the hunters, all right? The hunters will come around and shoot them, but I'm talking about regular you and me who are just like walking through a hiking trail and we happen to come across these creatures. Yeah, I'd like to be that big dumb moose. Not that I'm saying mises are, I'm not saying they're dumb at all, you know what I mean? They're probably very intellectual creatures, but when they're that big, you know what I mean? You can only imagine that, like, they don't have to worry about much, you know? So, I'd like to think of them as dumb, which is not good. Maybe I'll put them in, like, an indifferent range, like, you know what I mean? I'm indifferent to whether or not they're smart or dumb. They're just a very large creature, and I like to see the world from their perspective, you know what I mean? And do what they do. What about a bear? It must be so fun to be a bear. You know? Imagine going to that waterfall or like that river where all the fish are at. You just poke your head in there and you grab a fish and then you feed it to your cubs. And you're just kind of like, yeah, I got that. Or climbing up a tree. Maybe trying to eat some honey. I don't know if that's what they do. Maybe they prefer like a nice syrup from, sap from trees. You know what I mean? But they'll eat just about anything. But Imagine that feeling of like climbing a large tree. You get up there and maybe like you find a honey thing, you know? I would like to think. Yeah. It must be so cool to be that ferocious. That deadly, you know what I mean? But still like just being a bear, you know what I mean? Being a regular chill bear, you know? What about being an elephant? Elephants are they're so beautiful, but at the same time I'm kind of like I've never seen them. I mean, obviously they're out there in the wild, but it's kind of like hard for me to imagine like what is it that they're like what's their thing? What's something that they really enjoy doing? I guess it would just be cool to use the trunk, their big trunk, like maybe drink water from it, or not that they drink water from it, but I'm just saying that like it'd be cool to use that big trunk. Maybe go into the water, maybe lie in some mud, maybe give somebody a ride. You know, who knows? It would just be cool to have that perspective, just to be that big of an animal and like crush a watermelon with your foot and then eat the fruit. I don't know. I think that'd be cool. That'd be fun. But enough about that. Let's move on to. I mean, I think being a house pet would be fine. You know, especially because you get so pampered. So, being a dog, a domestic dog, being a cat, maybe even being a hamster. You know what I mean? I mean, there are any number of pet rodents that you could be, like a ferret, or I mean, they have like pet rats. You know. They also have pet birds, like those little parakeets, or maybe even a pet chicken. But it tends not to end well for the chicken. So maybe let's stay away from that. Pet dog, cat. They live the good life, you know what I mean? Especially if you get the right people beside you. So I don't know. I feel like those are a given, right? Like those are like, you don't have to imagine. You could just be like, oh yeah, they just do what we do, but then what's it called? They just want to be outside a lot more, you know what I mean? They're all about like getting out there, you know what I mean? So something like that. I don't know. Okay, let's move on to aquatic animals. I mean, fishes are house pet too, but they live in that one tank. I'm talking about like, I don't know. I don't think that quality of life inside of a tank, inside of a house, is all that pleasurable. You know what I mean? Unless you take the tank out there for a walk. I think maybe it's, you know what I think it is? I think that being a fish inside of a house, if you're going to be like that, or like any kind of animal that lives in a tank, you definitely have to give them something that makes that whole thing more appreciative, right? Like when you live in a tank, you're not as free, but you do get to see people every day, right? Like you get to see your owners or whoever. So I wonder what's the trade-off. Like it doesn't sound that much better, to be totally honest. So let's stay away from that. Okay, let's focus on what I was talking about. Aquatic animals. So fish. Just being a basic trout or flounder or whatever, just a tiny little guppy in the water. You know what I mean? Just the smallest little tiny fish out there, but you're in the ocean, right? That would be fun. I'm not sure exactly how they navigate, but that would be cool. It would be amazing to be a shark. Just knowing that wherever you go, you could just kill something, right? Like just being a huge, large shark. Do you ever think about the first person who saw a shark? They died. You know how I know they died? Because there's no way in the large world that somebody was just so happened to be swimming out there in the ocean, and then a shark came up and they ate somebody. Okay? Like there's no way a shark just came up out of nowhere, right? Like it exposed itself to the humans. I mean, maybe they fished for it, but that's very unlikely, okay? They came up to the surface and they ate somebody, and when they ate somebody, somebody documented it and was like, "What happened to Jim?" And they were like, "This huge large fish just came out and ate him and swallowed him whole." And they were just like, "Oh my gosh, what?" Right? Like just imagine being that shark. Imagine being a shark at all. It's got to be so cool. Just knowing that, like, you know what? I wonder what it's like to eat as a shark, because they have so many teeth. It's just like, how many fish can they eat in one go? They get like, it's got to be more than 10, maybe more than 15. And I'm talking about the big sharks. You know what I mean? But also, what would it like to be? Okay, so sharks are like the big predators in the ocean. What about something that's not as menacing? I already talked about fish, but what about jellyfish? I mean, head empty, just vibes, just floating. Maybe not the electric ones, because the electric ones, they have to, I think on some level they have to be kind of intelligent, because they have to watch out for people trying to eat them, so they could protect themselves with the electricity. I'm talking about like the perfectly regular, awesome floating jellyfish. Just the smallest ones. And they all group together, and they're all very colorful. Although I don't know if they can see color. I don't know if they can see at all, but it must be nice just to be floating. It must be so peaceful, so beautiful. Yeah, I'd like to be a jellyfish. That must be cool stuff. A whale. Dude, I am so fascinated by whales. I saw this documentary on blue whales when I went to New York, into I forget if it was the Natural History Museum or another one, but they played this documentary, and it was like a movie, and it was just so eye-opening about blue whales. I'm very fascinated by them, and they're so large, they're gigantic, and I think about what it must be like to be a creature of that size, what it's like to be an animal that big. And when I think about it, I just kind of go, what? I think about how small I am, but then I think about how big they are. And then you think about like, well, they're not that big compared to the ocean. They're not that big compared to the other animals. They're not that big to, you know what I mean? It just makes you greatly think about their size and like how much they eat. You know how much krill they eat? They eat so much. They eat so much krill. And it's crazy because I never would think that a creature of that size would eat something that small, but they eat it in abundance. And I don't know, I find them very fascinating. I would love to be a whale. Just to come up for air, just to try out the blowhole, you know what I mean? Just, you know what I mean? Then to go to a deep dive. I think that must be nice. And I really appreciate them because, well, they do a lot to like, I don't want to say pollute. They pollinate, or they're a part of the making the ocean healthy. You know what I mean? Through nothing more than just being themselves. So whatever. Anyways, let's move on to reptiles, like snakes. It would be cool to be a snake. I mean, the slithering would be the coolest part. I feel like I would do that so much, but being that striking power. You know what I mean? Just a, you know. I think I would like that the most. Definitely have to avoid birds, but I would like to be a snake. Oh, you know why I would want to be a snake? You ever see that video of that snake eating that hippo whole? That would be cool. Just like to eat something that big and then maybe just lay around and doing nothing, just like let it digest. That's probably a very accomplishing meal. Or being a huge anaconda in like the rainforest and then just like choking something out. You know what I mean? Like that kind of power must be really cool. It's like I got him, I'm gonna strangle him, and then that's when I'm gonna devour it. That's gotta be a cool thing. Not saying I would. I'm just saying that like from the perspective, if I'm imagining my life as a snake, that's one of the things that I'd be like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty satisfying, right? Like, but whatever. Maybe I would like to be a chameleon. A chameleon would be fun because you just kind of get to change colors, you know what I mean, depending on your environment. Maybe just like a regular gecko, a regular lizard, you know what I mean? Climb on the walls, eat bugs. Simple stuff. What about those huge Komodo dragons? You ever see those things fight each other? Those things are terrifying. I honestly don't know what I would do if I came across one of those. There's no way, even if I had like a sword, even if I had a gun, I don't even know. Those things would kill me in one go. And then what about dinosaurs? Oh my gosh, what would it like to be a dinosaur? I mean, if my life as a T-Rex, what about a pterodactyl or triceratops? Okay, or brontosaurus, or is it brachiosaurus? Anyways, just imagining my life as, I'm gonna say just as a T-Rex, dude, that would be insane. They show it in movies how menacing they are, but maybe I could be a chill one, you know what I mean? And if people don't like me being chill, then I'll just kill them, as a T-Rex. How's that sound? I don't know, I just like the idea of like being that big monster, you know what I mean? And then just kind of owning it. Right? Like everybody's afraid of the T-Rex. Everybody run away from the T-Rex. They're the biggest predator, you know what I mean? Run away from them. And then there's got to be something so satisfying about being like, why does everybody hate me? They're like, they hate you because of who you are. And then you're just like, well, if they're going to hate me anyways, I might as well get what I want through force. You know what I'm saying? And then they just like terrorize. I mean, they always just show the T-Rex as being like the bad guy or like the big deal. But there are plenty of other dinosaurs that are just as deadly, maybe even more so. But overall, when you're imagining life as an animal, I would say the closest or the best pick would be like a domestic dog or a cat, because, you get somebody to take care of you, you make friends, you go walk around in the park, you know what I mean? You don't have to fight for yourself, you know what I mean? They'll take care of you. They'll be your best friend. They'll give you cuddles and they'll let you try different kinds of food. Whereas if you're anything else, you kind of have to, you know what I mean, be out there on your own. You have to deal with nature, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think what kind of led to all of this, or what made me think about it, was just kind of like imagining I just wish there was a way we could tell what animals were thinking sometimes, just to kind of be like, that was cool, you know what I mean? Just like you see a bird do a nosedive and then they come up, right? And then they catch a fish that's like plop, like a fish like jumps out of the water for whatever reason, and then the bird just swoops down and catches it. Like, I would just love to know what that bird was thinking. Like, yeah, that was cool, dude. Something like that, Or maybe just to get the ideas of like a lion or a tiger, or like of a huge whale. Like the huge whale just kind of goes like, Yeah, man. You're tiny. You know what I mean? Jump in the water. See how you do. You know what I mean? I don't know. So that's kind of what brought this whole thing. I just want to know what they're thinking. But anyways, when you're imagining life as an animal, definitely, definitely, definitely choose one. Choose an animal that you feel like you can mostly like appreciate their lifestyle. You know what I mean? If you can appreciate a bird's lifestyle, pick a bird. If you can appreciate a horse's or a giant moose or elephant or like a dinosaur or whatever, choose that. You know what I mean? I feel if I couldn't be like the domestic dog, then I would probably lean towards. I like the fresh air. Being a whale would be cool, but like restricted to the water. I like the water, but it's like all the time. You know what I mean? I'd probably pick like a bear, a bear or a duck. Those are my two choices. Those are my top three choices: a dog, a bear, or a duck. Those are my choices. I feel like those are some pretty solid choices. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.